right now, there is this psychological trap that you are falling into. And the crazy part is you are probably doing it on purpose.
Oh, absolutely on purpose. We all do it.
Right. You are waiting for the perfect moment. You are waiting for the stars to align or for your schedule to just magically clear up or maybe for a sudden burst of motivation to strike you like lightning.
Like it's just going to fall from the sky.
Exactly. We convince ourselves that readiness is this absolute prerequisite for action. And today, we are going to completely dismantle that lie.
It really is a lie, too. I mean, it is one of the most pervasive illusions of the human experience. We kind of just operate in this bizarre state of suspended animation.
Suspended animation. I like that.
Yeah, like we are outsourcing our forward momentum to some unknown external force. We operate under the assumption that the system or a manager or, I don't know, the universe itself is ultimately going to swoop in and orchestrate the solutions to our lives.
Okay, let's unpack this because the central mission of this deep dive is to deconstruct that exact habit. We have some fascinating source material today. It's a text titled You versus You, The Architecture of Radical Responsibility. And we are going to figure out how to stop waiting for a rescue that is never coming.
Which is a tough pill to swallow.
It is. It's jarring. It's deeply uncomfortable. But we're going to see how assuming radical responsibility over your present and future is ultimately incredibly liberating.
It sounds incredibly heavy at first, I admit. But when you strip away that comforting, warm blanket of the illusion that someone else is going to solve your puzzle, well, what you are left with is an extraordinary amount of agency.
Yeah, you're the one in charge.
Exactly. It shifts the paradigm from being this passive passenger just waiting for a pilot to recognizing that, hey, you have actually been sitting in the driver's seat the entire time.
So whether you are listening to this on your commute or prepping for a big meeting or just, trying to get through a mundane Tuesday, consider your own life right now.
Think about it closely.
Where are you waiting for an external catalyst to finally make a change? Because the stark thesis we are working with today is a single, uncompromising sentence. No one is coming to your rescue.
No one.
Yeah.
And to truly understand why that statement feels so abrasive and yet so paradigm shifting, we have to look at the biology of it.
Biology, like evolutionary biology.
Yeah, evolutionary and sociological biology.
Yeah.
We have to ask why we expect a rescue in the first place. Because this expectation, it's actually hardwired into us from our formative years.
Okay, how so?
Well, humans have the longest period of neoteny of almost any mammal.
Neoteny, meaning?
Right. That's the period of juvenile dependence.
Yeah.
So during childhood, we are entirely dependent on an external support structure for pure survival.
Right. I mean, our guardians nurture us, they feed us, they physically put a roof over our heads.
We literally couldn't survive without them.
Exactly. And our educators guide us, they structure our days, they basically hand us a syllabus that dictates exactly what we need to know and when we need to know it.
Yeah, the path is completely paved for you.
And if we stumble, there is almost always a larger, older entity reaching down to pick us up and point us in the right direction.
So we are conditioned, literally from our very first breath, to understand that our physical and emotional well-being is heavily subsidized by other people.
Which makes sense for a kid.
Absolutely.
Right.
But the transition to adulthood brings this fundamental, often shocking rupture in that biological contract. Adulthood requires assuming the mantle of radical responsibility.
And the text definition of that is pretty intense, right?
Very. The definition we're working with here implies absolute ownership, unyielding accountability, and total jurisdiction over your own domain.
Total jurisdiction.
Yes. It means recognizing that your life's trajectory is no longer incumbent upon a guardian, a teacher, or some savior.
I have to push back on this premise just a bit, though.
Sure, go ahead.
Because framing it as absolute ownership can feel a little, oblivious to reality. Like, what about systemic issues?
That's the usual counterargument, yeah.
Right, because what about economic downturns or sudden illness or institutional barriers? To wake up one day and say, your trajectory is your responsibility alone, feels like it borders on a kind of toxic, hyper-individualistic productivity.
Like it ignores the fact that the playing field isn't level.
Exactly. It ignores reality.
That is a crucial distinction to make, and it is a really common point of friction when people first encounter this philosophy. But radical responsibility does not mean denying the existence of systemic inequalities or random tragedies.
Okay, so how does the text reconcile that?
It says, look, gravity exists, storms happen, economic markets crash. Radical responsibility is about recognizing that while you did not choose the storm, and you certainly did not build the unequal playing field, you are the only one who can decide how to navigate it.
So you can't wait for the storm to apologize.
Exactly. You cannot wait for the system to magically reform itself before you decide to take a step.
So it's focusing entirely on the locus of control. The storm is outside the locus. Your decision to build a shelter, that's inside it.
Yes, beautifully put. And leaning into that discomfort is where we find the emotional shift from apprehension to real empowerment.
Because if no one is coming, it's all on you.
Think about the logical conclusion of no one is coming to your rescue. If you accept that nobody's going to arrive and resolve your internal issues on your behalf, then it logically follows that you are the sole agent of your own salvation.
You are the only one with the keys.
Right. You possess the agency to enact change within the parameters of your reality, whatever those parameters are.
It takes the pressure off the universe and puts it squarely on your own shoulders. But that raises a massive question for me.
What's that?
If it is all on us, and we actually do possess this agency as the architects of our own lives, why is it so hard?
That is the million-dollar question.
I mean, if I have all this power, who exactly am I fighting against when I fail to act? Why am I still sitting on the couch scrolling on my phone?
What's fascinating here is how we have to dissect the internal conflict. The source material doesn't frame the ultimate battle of life as you against the world,
right,
or you against the economy.
It doesn't.
No, it frames it strictly as an internal civil war. It calls it you versus you.
You versus you.
It posits that the central struggle of human existence is between your present self and your potential self.
It reminds me of like a hostile corporate takeover.
Oh, I like that analogy.
It's not an external competitor trying to ruin the company. It is the lazy, complacent board members inside the building trying to outvote the ambitious CEO.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. We are composed of these two conflicting neural networks. On one side, we have the passive, comfort-seeking part of ourselves.
The lazy board members.
Exactly.
Right.
And we need to be clear here. This isn't a moral failing. This is straight-up evolutionary biology.
How so?
Well, the human brain consumes about 20% of the body's caloric energy, despite being just a tiny fraction of its weight.
20%? That's a massive energy drain.
It is an absolute energy hog. Therefore, biologically, it is deeply incentivized to conserve energy, avoid friction, and take the path of least resistance at all times.
So the voice that tells me, you've had a long day, you deserve to skip the gym, just order takeout, that isn't necessarily me being weak.
Not at all.
It is my primitive brain trying to save calories for a winter famine that is never actually going to happen.
Yes. It is your biological default operating system actively advocating for inertia.
Wow.
But on the other side of that boardroom, you have the proactive, resilient, aspirational part of the human psyche.
The CEO.
The CEO. This is the newer prefrontal cortex-driven voice that insists on discipline, that can conceptualize a future, that demands we take a step forward even when it requires a massive expenditure of energy and friction.
And so the dynamic of attention is what determines which side wins the boardroom vote.
Exactly. The neuroscience of neuroplasticity tells us that neurons that fire together wire together.
I've heard that phrase.
Whichever voice you grant the most attention, energy, and action to will literally build stronger neural pathways in your brain.
So if you consistently capitulate to the passive voice,
it becomes stronger, louder, and way more persuasive. It becomes your automated response to any challenge.
Okay, let's bring this out of the theoretical boardroom and into the bedroom.
Okay, let's do it.
Because the ultimate everyday micro battle that perfectly illustrates the Civil War is the morning alarm clock.
Oh, the alarm clock. The great enemy.
Right, the alarm sounds. In that exact fraction of a second, the battlefield is completely set. Your aspirational mind, the CEO, says, I must rise. I have goals to accomplish today.
But instantly, before you even open your eyes, that primitive energy-conserving board member whispers, just 5 more minutes. It's cold out there.
And we both know the mathematical impossibility of that request.
It's never 5 minutes.
5 more minutes completely violates the laws of physics. It inevitably morphs into 20 minutes or a full hour of fragmented, terrible sleep.
You've surrendered the entire company before your feet have even touched the floor.
Exactly.
And the scary part is, in that fraction of a second, you aren't just choosing a few extra minutes of rest. You are actively training your brain.
Training it to give up.
Yes. You are reinforcing the neural pathway that says your commitments to yourself are highly negotiable. You are telling your subconscious that the comfort-seeking voice is the ultimate authority in your life.
That's brutal.
Wow.
Think about your own morning today. When that alarm pierced the silence, which part of your brain won the negotiation?
Did the CEO step out of bed, or did the board members vote to hit the snooze button?
It is a fascinating, slightly terrifying mirror to hold up to ourselves. Because the most insidious weapon the passive voice uses isn't just pure laziness.
No, laziness is too obvious.
Right, we can spot laziness and feel guilty about it. The real weapon is much more sophisticated. It's the illusion of time.
The lie of the perfect moment.
Yes, the perfect moment.
The perfect moment is arguably the most destructive psychological construct in the human repertoire.
That's a strong statement.
But it's true. The essence of waiting is anticipating the perfect alignment of external variables. We tell ourselves that we aren't procrastinating, we're merely being highly strategic.
Oh, I'm just planning. I'm waiting for the right time.
Exactly. We are waiting for conditions to simplify, for an external push, for our bank accounts to hit a certain number, for the weather to improve.
We basically want all the traffic lights in the city to turn green before we'll even agree to pull out of our driveway.
But the unvarnished truth is that the perfect moment never materializes. It is a complete fiction, designed specifically by that energy-conserving part of your brain to protect you from the friction of starting.
Think about the ultimate universally designated day for a life overhaul. It's always Monday, isn't it?
Always Monday.
How many times have you told yourself, I'm going to completely overhaul my diet, but I'll start on Monday? Or, I'll commence my new fitness regimen on Monday?
Monday is the great dumping ground for human ambition.
It really is, because Monday represents this pristine, clean slate. But then actual, literal Monday arrives.
And you are tired from the weekend.
Right. Your boss sends an urgent email at 8 a.m. It is raining outside. The conditions are distinctly imperfect.
So the passive voice chimes in with perfect logic.
And it says, well, the slate is ruined now. Let's postpone to the subsequent Monday. We'll do it right next time. And you just get locked in this perpetual holding pattern.
The psychological trap driving that holding pattern is profound. We wait because we are waiting to feel a sense of readiness.
You want to feel ready.
Right. We mistakenly believe that motivation and readiness are prerequisites for action. We think we need to feel a surge of inspiration before we sit down to write, or a surge of energy before we go to the gym.
But the reality flips that dynamic entirely, according to the text. Readiness is often a consequence of taking action, not a prerequisite for it.
Exactly. If you sit around waiting to feel fully equipped and ready to write a book or start a business or learn a complex new skill, you will be waiting until you are in your grave.
Motivation is a byproduct of momentum.
Yes. You only ever feel truly ready after you have already pushed through that initial friction, started the task, and generated a small psychological win. Therefore, the optimal time for action is never a hypothetical future Monday.
It is invariably the present moment. Here's where it gets really interesting. This concept doesn't just apply to going to the gym.
No, it scales up.
It applies to undertaking massive, terrifying, high-stakes projects. Let's say you want to launch a podcast or start a business or step up to a leadership role.
High friction activities.
Right. Starting while you are completely riddled with anxiety, feeling like your skills are inadequate, and feeling utterly unprepared is actually the correct protocol.
It feels wrong, but it's right.
It's not a mistake to start messy. Improvement happens through the process.
It is the biological requirement for adaptation. Think about how the human body builds muscle. You cannot build muscle by reading textbooks about kinesiology.
No, you have to lift heavy things.
You have to put the muscle under acute, uncomfortable stress. You have to literally create micro tears in the tissue so that the body is forced to adapt and rebuild it stronger.
So the anxiety you feel when starting a massive project isn't a sign that you should wait.
No, it is the psychological equivalent of that muscle tearing. It means you are finally doing the work.
You have to jump into the deep end and thrash around a bit. The person standing on the diving board analyzing the water temperature for 10 years isn't learning anything.
They're just getting older.
The person currently swallowing a mouthful of pool water is the one actually learning to swim.
Exactly.
So how does this play out in specific, tangible areas of our lives? Where do we most commonly build these departure gates and just sit there waiting?
Let's look at the text's real-world applications. It gives 3 distinct examples.
Let's start with language acquisition.
Learning a new language is a classic arena where the perfect moment fallacy dominates.
Oh, for sure.
People profess a deep, sincere desire to master English, or Spanish, or Mandarin. It could open up career opportunities, let them travel freely, or connect them with a new culture.
But instead of engaging with the friction of the language, they remain completely static.
Because they convince themselves they need an elite, highly credentialed tutor before they can even speak a word. Or they wait for substantial funding to take a full immersion course.
Or they wait for the definitive, magical software application to be released. Or they just wait until they have a perfectly uninterrupted 2-hour block in their daily schedule.
Which never happens. And what is the result?
They spend all their time researching the methods of learning, right? Buying notebooks they never write in, organizing their desk.
Yes, the brain gets a cheap dopamine hit from the planning phase. Planning feels like progress, but it requires zero actual friction.
Meanwhile, time is just elapsing. Months evaporate. And their linguistic capability remains at absolute zero.
Contrast that paralyzed state with a person who simply decides to assume radical responsibility today.
The person who just starts.
Right. This second person doesn't have an elite tutor. They just have a 15-minute bus ride.
Right.
They don't have a magical app. They just have an authentic video on their phone.
And they say, I'm going to analyze one authentic conversation today. I am going to force myself to internalize 5 new lexical items today, even if my pronunciation is atrocious.
That incremental forward motion fundamentally changes the math. 5 words a day might sound pathetic compared to a 2-hour immersion course.
But 5 words a day is infinitely superior to 0 words a day while waiting for a course you'll never actually enroll in.
Exactly. It generates demonstrable momentum. And that leads directly into the second arena where the passive voice truly reigns supreme.
Personal health and physical fitness.
Oh, yes.
This is where the psychology of waiting becomes almost comical if you look at it objectively. We know we need to exercise. We know we need to eat better.
But we wait.
We wait for a companion or an accountability partner to drag us out of bed. We want a trainer to yell at us. We want someone else to provide the discipline that we refuse to generate ourselves.
There is an incredibly clarifying, almost absurd analogy in the text for this desire.
Share it. It's great.
Imagine a total stranger arriving at your front door at 6 a.m, knocking and declaring, "Greetings. I am here to undertake your physical exertion for today. You can go back to sleep. I will run the 3 miles for you, and you will reap the biological benefits."
We would all sign up for that service in a heartbeat.
It would be a $1 trillion company.
But it is biologically impossible. There is no proxy for personal health. You cannot outsource the tearing of the muscle fibers. You cannot outsource the digestion of nutrients.
You must physically transport your own mass to the gym. You must make the conscious, moment-to-moment nutritional choices yourself.
You have to do the work.
You have to experience the discomfort, the sweat, and the friction. Waiting for a companion to motivate you is just another way of abdicating responsibility for your own biological machine.
Which mirrors exactly how we treat our career ambitions, the third major arena discussed in the text.
Yes, career and personal ambitions.
Countless people harbor dreams of launching a business, authoring a novel, or pivoting to an entirely new industry.
But they defer.
Right. I'll write the book when I have more time. I'll start the business when I have more financial security.
They are waiting for the perfect alignment of abundant financial security and abundant free time. A state of affairs that literally never occurs for anyone, anywhere, ever.
Never. The underlying theme across all 3 of these arenas, language, health, and career, is the relentless, unapologetic passage of time.
Time is elapsing regardless of what you do. Time does not care if you are waiting or if you are acting.
You are going to be 5 years older in 5 years, regardless of what you choose today.
Precisely. The only variable you control is whether you will be 5 years older with 5 years of incremental compounded progress, or 5 years older having done nothing but sit at the departure gate waiting for a pilot who never showed up. Forward motion, however incremental, is infinitely superior to stagnation.
That concept of incremental forward motion brings us to the mathematical and structural heart of this entire philosophy, the architecture of compounding.
The architecture of compounding, it's fascinating.
We tend to obsess over dramatic leaps. We think success is about winning the lottery, or having a viral moment, or making one massive, heroic decision.
But the reality is that the architecture of your life is built entirely on the accumulation of seemingly trivial decisions. Every microscopic decision compounds over time.
This introduces the framework of micro-victories.
Let's define that based on the text. A micro-victory is a specific, tiny inflection point where your proactive self outmaneuvers your passive self in that internal boardroom.
So conquering the urge to hit the snooze button.
That is a micro victory.
Opting to drink water instead of a sugary, heavily processed beverage.
Micro victory.
Choosing to engage with an educational deep dive like this one instead of mindlessly scrolling through social media.
Definitive micro victory.
But I know there are listeners right now rolling their eyes, so I have to push back a little here.
Go for it.
Is it actually that simple? Can choosing a glass of water over sugar really alter my life's trajectory? It feels like self-help hyperbole to claim that my beverage choices dictate my destiny.
It is a totally valid skepticism. If we look at it purely nutritionally, no, one single glass of water does not change your life.
Okay, good.
But the argument in the text is not about the single glass of water. It is about the habit of letting the proactive voice gain ascendancy. Every time you make that tiny, uncomfortable choice in favor of your future self, you are casting a neurological vote.
A vote for the type of person you are becoming.
Exactly. You are proving to yourself that you are capable of denying your passive impulses. You are building the psychological muscle of discipline. Every small decision builds your life.
And this is where the math of compounding becomes staggering.
Let's break down the timeline. If you make one small 1% positive decision every single day for 365 days, you don't get slightly better. The effects compound. You evolve into a completely different person, operating on a completely different baseline of capability.
But the sword cuts both ways, right?
It does. Conversely, if you consistently lose these micro-battles, if you habitually surrender to the snooze, choose the junk food, defer action on your goals, well, after 1 year, you are also a completely different person.
But likely one you did not envision becoming.
The compounding effect works in reverse. You become a person whose default state is surrender.
Every small decision is a brick in the architecture of your life. Which is why I want to pause and address you directly, the listener.
Yes, take a moment here.
Acknowledge your current micro-victory. The fact that just by listening to this detailed analysis and dedicating this specific block of time to learning right now, you are actively claiming a micro-victory.
The CEO is currently winning the boardroom.
Exactly. It is foundational to acknowledge that momentum.
But, and this is important, we would be doing a massive disservice to the complexity of human life if we stopped there.
Right. Because it is relatively easy to talk about claiming micro-victories and taking radical responsibility on a normal, uneventful Tuesday.
But what happens when genuine hardship strikes?
That is the elephant in the room. Life is frequently fraught with severe difficulty, terminal illness, sudden catastrophic job loss, profound grief, deep familial strife.
In those moments of intense vulnerability, hearing the phrase, "no one is coming to your rescue," doesn't sound liberating at all.
It sounds cruel. It feels like a cold shoulder from an indifferent universe. Does radical responsibility mean you just have to grit your teeth, isolate yourself, and suffer entirely alone?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to make a vital, highly nuanced distinction. The text makes this very clear. No one is coming to your rescue absolutely does not mean you are alone.
Okay, that's a crucial distinction.
It is a dangerous misinterpretation of the concept to think you have to isolate yourself. When facing immense adversity, seeking assistance is vital. It is an intelligent strategy for survival.
So you can, and absolutely should, confide in your friends?
Yes. You should consult with family members. You should seek out professional therapists and counselors when the burden is too heavy. Build the most robust support network around yourself that you possibly can, and immerse yourself in books and resources.
But where is the line in the sand, then?
The line in the sand is the fundamental distinction between leveraging a support system, which is a strength, and abdicating responsibility into complete dependency, which is a trap.
I see.
Others can offer support, they can offer guidance, they can provide a safe harbor, but they cannot live your life for you or make the internal choices for you.
A therapist can give you all the cognitive tools in the world, but they cannot force you to use them when you are alone in your room.
Exactly. The resolve to persevere, the brutal decision to pull the covers back and get out of bed in the face of paralyzing grief, that spark must emanate from your own core.
Leveraging a support system is strength, but dependency is a trap. It's like a self-imposed cage.
That's a perfect metaphor.
If you're always waiting for a savior to carry the emotional or financial burden of your existence, you remain incarcerated by inaction. You hand the key to someone else and just hope they remember to feed you.
And tragically, many people spend their whole lives inside that cage, waiting for a rescue that simply defies the laws of reality and never arrives.
To perfectly illustrate the crushing tragedy of waiting versus the incredible triumph of starting, the text provides a powerful narrative about a man named Tom.
The parable of Tom. It grounds all of this abstract psychology into a very relatable human experience.
Let's walk through his story. So Tom harbored a deep, burning aspiration to launch his own enterprise. He wanted to be the master of his own destiny.
But then comes the paralysis.
Right. For 5 solid years, Tom was caught in absolute debilitating paralysis. He waited.
And look closely at what he was waiting for, because it perfectly maps onto the perfect moment fallacy we discussed.
He was waiting for a massive capital injection, like some angel investor to just drop money in his lap.
He was waiting for the perfect, flawless business idea to strike him. He was waiting for his current, demanding boss to suddenly become more clement and give him more free time.
He was waiting for vocal, unwavering support from his family. Basically, he wanted a guarantee of success before he would risk a single failure.
And the result of that waiting?
Yeah.
5 years completely vanished.
Tom looked around one day and had this grim, crushing realization that absolutely nothing had fundamentally changed. He was plagued by the exact same dissatisfaction.
He was just 5 years older.
Yeah.
That is the tragedy of waiting playing out in real time.
But then, the narrative introduces a catalyst. Tom has a chance encounter with an old acquaintance, and this friend had actually done the thing.
He had started a modest, unglamorous small business about 3 years prior.
The story notes that this friend wasn't wildly wealthy or famous, but he possessed the 2 things Tom desperately craved. He was autonomous, and he was fulfilled.
Naturally, Tom corners him and asks the secret. How did you do it?
And the friend's advice is the absolute crux of radical responsibility. The friend says, I just began. I wasn't ready. I was completely terrified. But I began anyway.
I began anyway, despite the fear, despite not having the capital, and most importantly, despite not feeling ready.
Hearing those words triggers a massive epiphany for Tom. In that moment, Tom realizes that the cavalry wasn't coming. No one was going to descend from the heavens to grant a perfect moment or instill readiness.
If he wanted out, he had to rescue himself.
The onus was entirely on him. And what follows is the action phase. Tom didn't go home and spend another year drafting a comprehensive plan or looking for a large sum of money.
No, he went home and executed one small, initial, incredibly messy action. Just one. And the next day, another.
Action by action, his life transformed. It wasn't a magic trick. It was the architecture of compounding.
Which forces a very direct question upon the listener right now.
Are you Tom in his first 5 years? Are you waiting for someone to bestow the perfect moment upon you, paralyzed at the departure gate? Or are you prepared to take your inaugural step, terrified as you might feel?
If we want to be like Tom in the second half of the story, the text actually gives us a highly pragmatic 4-step action plan to implement this radical responsibility.
Let's tear down this blueprint, step by step. Step 1, cease procrastination, or more simply, stop waiting.
It sounds deceptively simple.
Almost insulting, just stop waiting. But neurologically, it is a monumentally difficult hurdle.
It is incredibly difficult because it requires overriding your primitive brain's intense desire for safety. The directive here is to begin today, not next Monday, today.
The trick is to avoid creating massive 10-point plans because complex planning is often just procrastination in disguise. What is one singular action you can take today?
Buy the domain name, put on your running shoes, send the email, just introduce the friction.
Now, as soon as you introduce that friction, your internal boardroom is going to panic, which leads to step 2. Cultivate a constructive internal dialogue.
Because the battlefield is you versus you, and we usually fight ourselves destructively.
The moment we stumble, the passive voice attacks. We berate ourselves. We say, I'm inept, I'm lazy, I'm a failure.
And that negative self-flagellation is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your passive voice uses that as evidence to permanently give up.
So how do we fix it? The text advises addressing yourself as you would a highly valued friend. You don't scream at a friend who makes a mistake.
You offer constructive recalibration. You say, a misstep occurred. That's acceptable. I will recalibrate. I am capable of this.
I am capable of this. Shifting from an internal punisher to an internal coach changes everything, which is necessary for step 3. Acknowledge micro victories.
This is a crucial defense against burnout. We have a terrible habit of deferring all of our satisfaction until some monumental end goal is finally achieved.
But if you withhold all positive reinforcement until the finish line, your brain will run out of dopamine and quit.
precisely why you must acknowledge the small steps. Acknowledge waking up on time, acknowledge drinking water, acknowledge engaging with this content.
Small steps constitute great journeys. You are making the hard work feel rewarding in real time. And finally, step 4, which might be the hardest in the modern era. Benchmark against your previous self, not others.
This raises an important question about social media. We are constantly bombarded with curated highlight reels of other human beings.
And comparing your unedited reality to their perfectly lit highlights leads to deep inadequacy and discontent. It's a rigged game.
You cannot win a game where the opponent edits out all their failures. The operative question isn't, are you better than someone else on the internet?
The operative question is, are you a better, more capable version of yesterday's you?
That is the only valid metric.
So what does this all mean? When we pull all of these threads together, the overarching mantra is to be the architect of your own life. You don't need an external command to proceed.
You do not need permission to begin build.
To quickly recap the journey of this deep dive, we accepted that no one is coming to save us. We embraced the you versus you micro-battles. We completely abandoned the lie of the perfect moment. We learned to seek help without falling into dependency. And we committed to acting today.
It is a profound framework for reclaiming your agency.
We want to challenge you with a direct prompt from the text. What is one small step you will take today? Grand or minute, what will you do today that your future self will be grateful for?
Decide right now.
As we sign off, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought that builds on everything we've discussed. We've talked extensively about how freeing it is to realize no one is coming to rescue you, but consider this. What if the rescue you've been desperately waiting for all along wasn't a person, an event, or a perfect Monday?
What if it was the realization itself?
Exactly. What if the profound realization that you never actually needed to be rescued in the first place was the key? You were fully, completely equipped for the journey, the exact moment you decided to take the very first step.
The power was always yours.
Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us, for engaging with complex ideas, and dedicating time to your own growth. Keep building your architecture, and always remember to be the active protagonist of your own story.